based on race, because when you do that, you create more inequality.
So did we not
as
need
you
the
said.
Voting Rights Act in the first place?
So, well, now that we don't need it, because now we're going to treat everybody fairly under the law, Jessica. Mm-hmm. And you should be celebrating that. And instead, you're having a panic attack because Trump is systematically, along with this court and the Justice Department, dismantling all of your pillars of power, from the SPLLC to the voting rights agenda, to all of the fraud, to the USAID scam, to everything that you guys have been trying to perpetrate on this country without persuasion. You've been doing it by force and in the shadows, and that's why you're shooting him. That's why you're suing him and trying to put him in prison, because he is destroying everything you guys do behind the scenes that we're now exposing. And look at New England, Jessica. Look, you guys already started this years ago. New England, Kamala wins 60% of the New England states, okay? 60% of the vote there. How many Republican House seats do they have? Zero. In the Deep South, Donald Trump wins 60% of Deep South states. Every state, you have 1, 2, even 3 House Democrat seats there. Sorry, we're going to have to make it more fair and balanced.
Okay. Well, first of all, if you're talking about Massachusetts, for instance, and how their seats work, they actually had an independent commission that a Republican governor was overseeing, and that's how they drew those maps. So go ahead and call the Republicans on them like a bunch of rhinos or whatever, but they went through the proper process to do this. In South Carolina, for instance, there's only one Democratic seat, Jim Clyburn's seat.
You're boring everybody.
Yeah, I mean, no, you had your chance.
Racism is illegal.
You don't get 2 scoops. This ain't raising.
The post circulating online presents a heated exchange involving Jesse Waiters and Jessica Tarlov, framing it as decisive and dramatic moment in an ongoing political debate. The language used is highly charged, emphasizing conflict, victory, and emotional reactions, rather than offering a balanced or fully verified accounts of events. Claims about election outcomes, representation in different regions, and institutional actions are presented in a simplified and assertive way, which can easily capture attention but may not reflect the full complexity of the issues being discussed. From a broader perspective, topics like gerrymandering, electoral fairness, and political influence are indeed serious and widely debated across the United States. However, they require careful analysis, credible data, and contexts from multiple sources to truly understand. Social media posts like they often highlight only one side of argument, using strong wording to engage audiences and to provoke reactions rather than to inform comprehensively. It is also important to note that statements regarding organization, government agencies, or alleged fraud should be approached with the caution unless supported by verified reporting from reputable news outlets. Political commentary, especially when presented in a dramatic or confrontational tone, can blur the line between opinion and fact. For viewers and readers, the key is to stay critical and informed. Instead of relying solely on viral posts, it's better to cross check information with the established news sources. Watch full interviews or debates and understand the broader political and legal contexts. This not only leads to clearer understanding but also helps avoid being influenced by exaggerated or one sided narratives designed primarily for engagement rather than accuracy.
So you're against what Donald Trump had Texas do then? Because you have districts there that are...
I can see...
Well, a majority of Americans are against all of this.
Yeah, me
so
too.
they want a gerrymandering ban.
I don't like gerrymandering.
And so do Democrats. They had a ban and no Republicans supported them. And frankly, as we look ahead to 2028, when this will really matter, so for the midterms, it's going to have a near negligible effect. In some cases, it could net the Republicans 0 seats. Best case, 3 to 4, and we can tick down through what goes on in Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina, and even Florida, because what their new map violates the state constitution there. But the gerrymandering ban has been available to Republicans, and they should take the Democrats up on it. Because if you listen to Hakeem Jeffries' press conference earlier, he was talking about the states that he's now eyeing. And there's a scenario in which suddenly Illinois is completely blue, Maryland completely blue, Colorado, California, that'd be 52 seats. And Representative Terry Sewell, who could be losing their seat, said, yeah, this is, to use earlier language, this could turn into a maximum nonviolent warfare moment where everybody says, if this is the law of the land, that you can go around gerrymandering like this, we're going to try to get ourselves the most advantageous position.
Well, at least I will take racism. And I go back to the contrast. We don't have to defend our racists because we don't know who they are because you create them. Meanwhile, we don't have to make up your racist because you're standing there with Hassan Piker. These guys are right there in our face.
The comparison,
hold on, I gotta get.
Can you say the victims that they don't exist or whatever? Yeah. The 23 people who died in the Walmart in El Paso, going to Buffalo, going to the Tree of Life Synagogue, those were all
that is
killed.
not part of that is not part of the psyop or the false flag. Of course, you're violating the exception to the rule fallacy.
I'm not.
Yes,
Jesse said everything is fine. We all love each other.
You know what he was doing.
I say we love each other more than you guys make it out to be.
I've got to get Emily.
We want the country to be.
Recent posts circulating on social media highlight a sharp and highly charged political exchange involving Jessica Tarlov and commentary amplified by figures like Greg Gutfeld and others. The messaging in these posts focuses heavily on gerrymandering, partisan strategy, and accusations tied to race and political influence. Tarlov remarks as presented point towards an ongoing debate within U.S. politics about redistricting and whether a nationwide ban on gerrymandering could create a more balanced electoral system. This is not a new issue. Both major parties have different times been accused of drawing district maps to their advantage, and Supreme Court has previously ruled that federal courts have limited power to intervene in partisan gerrymandering cases, leaving much of the responsibility to individual states. At the same time, the viral framing of these exchanges, using phrases like tortured or portraying on one side as completely defeated, leans more toward entertainment-style political commentary than neutral reporting. These narratives are designed to maximize engagement, often simplifying complex policy debates into dramatic confrontations. Claims about gaining specific numbers of seats in states like California or creating entirely blue regions should be understood as a hypothetical or strategical discussion, rather than confirmed outcomes. Electoral maps, depending on census data, state legislators, and legal challenges, making the process far more complicated than a single statement can capture. The post also introduced emotionally loaded accusations related to racism and political aliens, which further intensify audience reactions, however, without full context, such as complete interviews, verified transcripts, or responses from all parties involved. It becomes difficult to determine how accurately these statements reflect what was actually said. Social media often isolates the most provocative lines, removing nuance and turning policy disagreements into personal clashes. For viewers trying to make sense of these discussions, it's important to separate commentary from verified facts. Gerrymandering remains a legitimate and widely debated concern in American democracy, with advocacy groups, lawmakers, and courts continuing to argue over how to ensure fair representation. Proposals like independent redistricting commissions or federal standards are part of that ongoing conversation. However, viral posts rarely provide the depth needed to fully understand these solutions, their potential impact. Ultimately, while the content may appear convincing and emotionally engaging, it should be approached critically, checking full-length sources, reputable news coverage, and official statements can provide a clear and more accurate picture. Political discourse is often complex and multi-layered, and reducing it to viral moments risks missing the broader reality behind the headline.
Crime hoax.
The liberal goes, Justice Smollett, anyone?
No, I didn't
how about
say
the
anything
banana
about Justice
peel on the
Smollett.
bench?
Yeah,
How about the
Walmart
noose
shooter
at the
is a banana
racetrack?
peel. What hoax have you actually seen here? You don't think that hundreds of people showed up up at the Unite the Right rally that weren't this informant, that weren't persuaded by his vehicle that got them there?
Who was the informant?
I don't. What?
You don't know. Was it the leader? An informant is not a leader.
Do you think
it's also? I mean,
you think
that's the
white supremacists there? That it's not real?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Are you?
All I know is I never heard of it until the day that it happened. You act like you can take the word for a bunch of corrupt people.
Proud Boys.
So you're saying this wasn't created. You're saying this just was an organic event, just like every left-wing event. It just happened. All these right-wingers showed up. Nobody else knew about it.
And you know what? Nobody people are real.
Nobody.
The white supremacists are
You know
real,
what?
who got the call to action.
Let me do the simplest analogy. This is like when somebody says, on average, men are taller and way more than women. And then one woman goes, but what about her? And they point to a WNBA player. Yes, Jessica, I'll give you. There probably is a bigot somewhere, but you guys created a false flag that there was this immense movement going on in this country that then put targets on people like Charlie Kirk's back, and he's dead. And a lot of other people were either threatened, physically attacked because of a false flag, which painted an entire, basically, millions of people as white supremacists. You guys ran with it. Imagine if Trump had not won and Kamala Harris had won. Imagine where the SPLC would be now. Imagine how torn apart this country would be. And by the way, I hope that this thing mends, but I don't know, because there are people like you, Jessica, who have such a sunk cost in this belief that this is a belief you were tricked into believing, to think that there's all these racists hiding behind every Cracker Barrel. No, you know what the racists were? They were the anti-racist black activists who saw this as a way to go after whites. This racism that you created was designed to allow for a different kind of racism. And I go back to the contrast. We don't have to defend our racists because we don't know who they are, because you create them. Meanwhile, we don't have to make up your racists because you're standing there with Hassan Piker.
A viral post currently making rounds online highlights a heated exchange involving Jessica Tarlov and Graves Gutfeld, with the strong claims tied to Southern Poverty Law Center (SPLC) and the event surrounding 2017 Unite the Right rally in Katoliceville, and the tone of the post is highly dramatic, using phrases like "ripped to shreds" and "holy smokes" to frame discussion as a decisive takedown rather than a nuanced political debate. This kind of presentation is common on social media, where engagement is often driven by emotionally charged language rather than balanced reporting. At the center of the claims is the suggestion that the Carlo rally was somehow funded or not organic. However, this is a serious allegation that has been widely discussed and investigated over the years. Multiple official reports, court cases, and credible news organizations have documented that the rally was organized by white nationalist groups, and it has resulted in violence that drew national and international attention. While there are ongoing debates about the role of different organizations, law enforcement responses, and political narratives, broad claims that the entire event was artificially created or funded in a misleading way are not supported by established verifiable evidence from mainstream reporting. The mention of the SPLC also reflects a long running political divide. The organization is known for tracking extremist groups, but it has also forced criticism from some commentators who question its method and conclusions. This makes it is a frequent focal point in partisan discussions. However, any claims about its actions or influence should be evaluated carefully with reference to documented facts rather than isolated commentary clips or viral posts. What stands out most in this situation is how quickly complex historical and political issues are reduced to short, punchy narratives designed for maximum impact. Television debates, especially opinion driven programs, often feature sharp exchanges and strong rhetoric, but those moments can lose context when clipped and sharp online. Without seeing the full discussion, including what each participant actually argued and how the conversation unfolded, viewers are left with a one sided impression. For audiences trying to stay informed, the key takeaway is to approach such content with a critical mindset. Viral posts can highlight real disagreements, but they rarely provide the full picture. It's important to cross check claims, especially those involving major historical events or serial accusations, against reputable news sources and verified records. Political discourse in the US is deeply polarized, and content like this often reflects that divide more than it reflects objective reality. In the end, while the post may succeed in grabbing attention and sparking reactions, understanding the truth requires going beyond the highline style framing. Looking to complete reviews, verified timelines, and credible reporting will give a far clearly and more accurate understanding of what actually happened and what is still debated today.